What's up, space pirates? I am your captain, the ever-charming Dr. Disaster. And today is the day, folks. Today is the day Indiana Jones and the dial of decidedly shitty storytelling is finally unleashed upon the world like a plague.
Hey everybody, there's a shit cloud coming! Run for your lives!
You know, it has been hilarious. In the past few days, the media has been attempting to run cover for this movie, but they just can't seem to muster a worthy defense. One of the funniest things I've been seeing is this. This article comes from GameSpot, and just look at the headline for this very truthful work of art. Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny defy critics with a $140 million global debut. Oh man, $140 million? That sounds like a lot. And it's defying the critics who have largely lambasted this movie? Oh, that sounds like this movie is just gonna do gangbusters. Maybe I've been wrong, guys. Maybe it's gonna really kick ass at the box office and make us all look like idiots.
How about no?
Nah, this thing is gonna bomb. Reread what the article says. $140 million is the global haul it's projecting to take in. Now, we are used to seeing headlines tout the domestic haul for films, but the numbers are so shitty on Indiana Jones 5, they are attempting to dupe people by highlighting the global numbers. About 2 days ago, I started to see a bunch of these articles pop up at the same time, and it gave me a good laugh. Here's another one from the outlet Comic Book. Indiana Jones 5 eyeing $140 million start at the global box office. This is how we know that Disney knows they screwed up. When they obfuscate the truth, that means they know the truth. This movie is gonna bomb hard.
Well, they don't come any closer than that.
Bombs away, Disney. There's no escaping this one. And in this video, we are going to have a look at the early Thursday evening numbers, which suggest Indiana Jones 5 is going to do just as bad as we've been predicting. You may remember that a few weeks ago, early projections of this movie were downgraded to about $70 million as the ceiling for the domestic box office in the opening weekend. Now, it looks like that ceiling has been moved to about $65 million. There's no getting out of this one, Disney. You're gonna lose a ton of money.
How am I going to get out of this?
Alright, let's have a look at this article from Deadline to see how the very, very early Indy 5 box office numbers look. The headline says, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny ringing up $6 million plus Thursday night box office. The article reads, Disney/Lucasfilm's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is posting an estimated $6 million to $7.5 million Thursday night per sources, which is where previous older skewing action guy comps live. Now, one thing you're going to notice in this article is that this is a bit of a recurring theme. The explanation for how this film is doing is going to be blamed on the fact that this is a show about an old guy, made for old guys. There'll be no looking inward for these people, no self-reflection. They won't even talk about the fact that yes, it's made for guys, it's made for dudes. Typically speaking, guys are the ones who watch Indiana Jones, and no mention of the fact that despite this fact, they decided to inject Little Miss Feminism, Phoebe Waller-Bridge into the story, where we know she is going to be made the star of the show. There's always an excuse, and it usually boils down to the immutable characteristics of the star of a film. When The Little Mermaid was bombing, it was blamed on racism, since the actress was black. Now, they're blaming this one on the fact that nobody cares about old guys. But we'll read on. We're specifically referencing the Thursday night starts of No Time to Die, which grossed $6.3 million before its $55.2 million opening weekend in October 2021, and 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout, which made $6 million before its $61.2 million weekend start. Dial of Destiny, which started previews at 3 p.m. Thursday, is expected to gross between $60 million to $65 million at 4,500 theaters, making it the second highest stateside opening for the Steven Spielberg-George Lucas franchise after 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which posted a 5-day opening of $151.9 million after a 3-day of $100.1 million. Now, gonna pause for a second and give this some context. You want to know how damaged the Lucasfilm brand is? You want to know how bad this film is doing? These guys try to spin things by saying crap like, oh, it's the second best opening weekend of the franchise. Well, boys, math is fun. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull opened in 2008. Now, according to thenumbers.com, the price of the average movie ticket in 2008 was $7.18. While now, in 2023, the average ticket costs us $10.45. That's an over 45% increase in price. And yet Lucasfilm is staring down the barrel of an over 30% decrease in total sales numbers. If you want to break it down even further, this gets really hilarious. If you divide the $100.1 million domestic opening weekend of Crystal Skull by the average ticket price, you can see that damn near 14 million people went to see this film on opening weekend 2008. 14 million people. If we give Indiana Jones 5 the benefit of the doubt, and assume absolute best case scenario that it exceeds expectations and does like 70 million this weekend. If we divide 70 million by the average ticket price these days, we are looking at 6.7 million individual ticket sales. That means they have lost half their audience.
Oh, what a loser!
Continuing on, Crystal Skull didn't have previews but opened fully on the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend with 25 million at 4,260 theaters. Why aren't weekend projections up to the same level as the previous chapter? It's twofold. Part of that has to do with this indie getting the worst reviews ever at 66% coming out of its Cannes Film Festival world premiere, but also its audience is graying and on par with the 007 franchise. Like I said, they're blaming the poor reception on the fans being older. I'm not sure what the reasoning is here though. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. My generation grew up on movie theaters. I was born in the early 80s, and for me, for people my age, movies, going to the theaters, it's a way of life. A deeply embedded part of our culture. But now that we're a bit older, suddenly we don't want to see our beloved characters on screen? Suddenly they don't matter? No, this is cope, folks. Pure, unadulterated cope. And they blow away their own argument in the very next sentence. It says, You can't say that Mission Impossible is getting older just yet, as that movie is set to see a franchise best start with Dead Reckoning of $100 million over 5 days starting July 12th. That sequel is expecting to nab a Top Gun Maverick halo effect. So what's the difference here, guys? Why is Mission Impossible going to do well while Indiana Jones 5 struggles? What's the difference? Well, I can tell you why. It's actually really simple. Tom Cruise, his movies, they apparently refuse to completely emasculate the character. They refuse to ruin the characters. Wow, can you believe it? They actually respect the old characters. That is why the audience keeps coming back, because they keep putting out the same level of content. The same level of care is put into these films that they put into the old ones. In fact, you could argue that these movies, the Mission Impossible movies, have been getting better. But Lucasfilm has lost our trust. That's the difference, guys. In Lucasfilm movies, we know that the male characters will be ruined, whereas Mission Impossible doesn't do that. That's the difference. And I'm not even a big Mission Impossible fan, to be honest with you. I've seen most of them. They're pretty good, but they're just not my favorite. Maybe I need to go to this one, though. Maybe I need to get into Mission Impossible. I need to support movies like this, where they continually put out good stuff and they don't disrespect the characters. That's the sort of movie that deserves our respect. But it's amusing to see these worms in the media struggle to find an excuse when they don't have racism or sexism to blame a movie's failure on. Indy is an old white guy, so they stumble around trying oh so hard to defend this indefensible film. This is why they choose non-white and female actors as leads nowadays, make no mistake, because they make convenient shields. And keep in mind that as recently as a couple of days ago, this very same rag, Deadline, ran this headline, once again touting the $140 million expected global haul of Indiana Jones 5 as if it was some major win. All of these headlines were so nearly identical, all coming out on the same day, it's almost as if it was some sort of collaboration. Almost as if these media types are just shilling for Disney. Almost as if they're on the payroll of these corporate bloodsuckers. Really makes you think, huh? Another amusing little thing to note here too, though, if we pull up Google Trends, as I often like to do, we can make a comparison between Indiana Jones 5, the Line in Blue, and a movie that actually respected its character. A movie starring an old white guy that didn't need the media to defend it. The red line represents the amount of searches that were entered into the Google search engine for last year's Top Gun Maverick. As you can see, the red line spiked on Top Gun's opening weekend in May of 2022. But the little blue line, which you can barely see, that's Indiana Jones. Now, it might go up yet. You can see that the buzz isn't doing very much, and yes, it will spike yet, it will go up, but it is going to pale in comparison to Top Gun Maverick. I will revisit this at a later date, but the truth is, nobody is searching up the Dial of Destiny because nobody cares about it. This project has no buzz, and after this initial weekend, where the die-hard cultural auto intake crowd and the morbidly curious will go to see this movie, after that, it will flounder. It will go down like a rock. Remember, usually a film makes about a third of its total global haul on the first weekend. Unless there's either very good or very bad word of mouth, that is the general rule of thumb. Now, assuming Indy 5 is just an average film, and assuming that it doesn't skew really hard one way or another, if we use that $140 million number these shills have been touting, they are on pace for just a bit over $400 million in earnings globally for Indiana Jones 5, which would be such a catastrophic loss for the company, it's hard to imagine they will ever recover. Of course, that's what happens when you alienate half your audience and they decide to do a boycott on your pathetic ass. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.